All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Processing with Parker. I'm ambushing Parker. We're in the office.
I'm dressed like a schlub today.
He's dressed like a schlub, and I'm dressed nice. Okay, so I'm reading Way of the Victorious, and I have a bunch of notes. You can see my journal here. And one of the things Parker talks about is the parable of the talents. By the way, this microphone is not recording this. I just happen to be sitting at my desk. So Parker talks about the parable of the talents and how the talents are his property. And it's a weight, and it's something that he has favor to do business with. And it got me to start to think about, where has the God given me favor? Where am I called to steward? And looking at those things. And then he talks about the bad servant is the one that is not faithful. So I'm going to ask Parker about this a little bit. All right. So Parker.
Well, I wasn't going to sing at all, so this will be really off the cuff.
Can you come over here?
No, you come to me. This is Processing with Parker.
Come over.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to my interview studio. All right, so you talk about how the bad guy, the bad servant, what makes him a bad servant?
His idea of who God is, of who his master is.
So he is given these talents, and like, how is this normally taught? It's like normally taught like...
It's usually given like an offering message.
That's real.
Because he can't preach Malachi every Sunday.
Okay, so what is he basically saying? Like...
Who, Jesus?
Yeah, like what is he actually saying?
Jesus is saying everyone's given a certain task after his ascension and before the kingdom comes in its fullness, or the second coming of Christ, the return of Christ, and in between, the master's away getting his affairs in order, and will come back to completely take the kingdom and then judge the living and the dead, like it says in Revelation, by their deeds. So he's been given, these servants have been given a task to take care of while their master's away.
So what makes him bad, though?
The central theme, in my opinion, is that he's entitled. That he has been given what he's been given, but first of all, it's less than what the other servants have been given, so he may have a little bit of bitterness there. But I think he thinks God is a cruel man who's not actually helping him get the job done in the in-between. And so when he comes back to talk to the master, he says, I knew you were a hard man, reaping where you did not sow. And so he gets judged for burying what he should have used to expand the kingdom.
So something I wrote down is like, where has God given me favor? Where am I called to steward things? And you say that, the good servant is the one that's multiplying.
Right.
So I wrote down, like, where are areas where maybe I'm maintaining versus multiplying.
Yeah, the positive aspect of the story is that...
Positive.
A lot of times we think of faithfulness as just sticking to it, continuing to keep going, grinding it out. But biblical faithfulness is portrayed by Jesus multiple times as multiplying what God has put in your hand. So being a good steward or a good servant of Jesus is actually multiplying what God has put in your hand, not just keeping the status quo. If keeping the status quo was the point of the story, then the one that buried it would have been correct.
Wow.
In what he did.
So what can someone do going into 2024, like, to make sure that they're actually a good servant of the Lord with the things that they've been given?
Well, I think the biggest thing most Christians do, most people do, is hesitation. So they wait until everything's perfect, until conditions are perfect, to start the business, to start the church, to start the ministry, to begin praying, to begin having children, to marry the girl, to do all those things. They're waiting, but you need to take that step forward with what's in your hand. So you do the best with what you have in your hand at the time. and start using what you actually have in order to leverage that for the next thing. You can't move on to the next thing until you steward well what you actually have in your hand in the first place. A lot of people wait for that mantle or that authority to just be bestowed upon them at some conference or something, but it's earned a lot of times through trial and testing and multiplying what you already have, even if it's not your central calling.
That's so good. Okay, so let's get a little personal.
Let's get personal.
By the way, I keep seeing this here, and it's so gross. You guys want to know what this is?
You're a weirdo.
This is water, living water, evidently, from the baptismals in Kentucky.
Algae's living off human skin cells.
Ew. It's anointed. Okay, Parker, what would you say is one or two areas that God has called you personally to multiply?
Well, we're doing pretty good with our family, first of all.
We done.
We have 4 kids, so I've always kind of wanted to have 4 kids. This Madison was a little bit of a surprise, but I mean, let's be honest. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, training my kids, loving my kids well is the first thing that is priority. Right now, we're in a whole reorganization of just our household.
Looking at my desk, I need to...
Our calendar, literally our calendar, our closets, our physical health, all those things are in our hand that we're dealing with right now. We're having long meetings about those, continually discussing those. And then I think the big thing I have right now is a church in North Carolina. So thinking of new strategies to train people, finding the right people for the right jobs, restructuring that, making sure people are actually being discipled correctly in what we call our kinship groups. Just finding great people, discovering great people, getting people aligned with their actual gifts and talents that God has put in our hands to disciple and love until He comes back. So that's the biggest one. And then, I mean, I think the biggest one personally is my, and these are secrets. I actually practiced guitar for an hour yesterday.
Whoa.
So
Worship leader Parker coming at you in 2024.
I think every lead pastor wants to be a rock star, so every time they're in worship. But I am practicing. I'm getting ready for any opportunity that might come my way in that, and then practicing communication, because that's probably the number one thing that's important with my job is communicating well in small groups, large groups, and with individuals. So.
And what's your favorite thing about being married?
Favorite thing about being married? I think for me, it's like your best friend's always at home when you get home. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like sleep over with your best friend. And the comfort that it brings and the encouragement that it brings and everything else. And I think that works best when you have the right person. No. But that's probably my favorite thing. It's like even when I'm crappy at processing things that I'm feeling and going through and need encouragement in, there's no fear of just going anywhere and raising kids together. It's like just a fun adventure. Like we're a very adventurous couple, so we like our big and little adventures.
That's true. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Processing with Parker. Let me know in the comments what kind of questions you want me to scare him with.
So terrifying.
And at any time, we might have an episode coming. All right. Thank you, guys. Make sure to hit subscribe, or as my kids would say, smash that subscribe button. All right. Bye, everyone.